The crash of breaking glass shattered Restaurant Alba's elegant silence like a gunshot through velvet. Emily Torres hit the marble floor hard, her serving tray spinning through the air in a metallic blur. Lobster tails and butter sauce arced across the dining room like golden meteors. But she never hit the ground. Strong hands caught her waist, pulling her against a solid chest that smelled of expensive cologne and danger. Emily's breath caught as she found herself staring into the coldest gray eyes she'd ever seen. Nathan Hale. The CEO who owned half of Manhattan's skyline sat motionless as butter sauce dripped from his perfectly styled black hair onto his $1,000 suit. His jaw was clenched tight enough to crack diamonds. "I'm so sorry," Emily whispered, her face burning with embarrassment. The entire restaurant had gone silent, crystal glasses suspended halfway to lips, conversations frozen mid-sentence. Nathan's grip on her waist tightened. His eyes searched her face with an intensity that made her stomach flip. "Are you hurt?" The question came out rougher than he'd intended. Emily shook her head, trying to untangle herself from his lap, but her foot caught the chair leg. Her hand shot out instinctively, grabbing his silk tie for balance, yanking him forward until their faces were inches apart. His breath was warm against her lips. She could see flecks of gold in those storm-gray eyes, could feel the tension radiating from his body like heat from a forge. For a heartbeat that lasted an eternity, neither of them moved. "Emily?" Marco's panicked voice broke the spell. She jerked back, finally finding her footing. Nathan's hands lingered on her waist for a moment longer before releasing her. She stumbled backward, mumbling apologies, her heart hammering against her ribs. "I need to..." She gestured vaguely toward the kitchen, her cheeks flaming. "Wait." Nathan's voice cut through her retreat like a blade. He stood slowly, sauce staining his white shirt, his tie askew, but his eyes never left hers. "What's your name?" "Emily Torres." The words tumbled out before she could stop them. He nodded once, as if filing the information away. "Emily Torres." The way he said her name made something dangerous flutter in her chest. She turned and fled toward the kitchen, leaving Nathan standing among the wreckage of their collision. But as she pushed through the swinging doors, she heard him speak to the floor manager, his voice carrying across the hushed restaurant. "I want her to serve my table from now on." Emily's blood turned to ice. She pressed her back against the kitchen wall, her hands shaking as the full weight of what had just happened crashed over her. She'd landed in the lap of the most powerful man in the city, and instead of firing her, he wanted her back. The question that terrified her most wasn't why Nathan Hale had caught her fall. It was why she couldn't stop thinking about the way his hands had felt around her waist, strong and possessive, like he had no intention of ever letting go. 3 hours later, Emily crouched behind the bar like a fugitive, nursing a glass of water and praying for invisibility. The restaurant had mostly emptied, but she could still feel the weight of curious stares from the remaining staff. The sound of approaching footsteps made her freeze. Expensive leather on marble. She knew that rhythm now. Hiding won't make this disappear. Emily's heart lurched. She turned slowly to find Nathan standing behind her, no longer wearing the sauce-stained shirt. He'd changed into a fresh white button-down that made his eyes look like winter storms. His tie was gone, the top button undone, revealing a glimpse of his throat that made her mouth go dry. "I'm not hiding," she lied, standing on unsteady legs. "I'm just processing." "Process faster." His lips quirked in what might have been amusement. "I have a proposition. If this is about compensation for your suit, it's not about money." Nathan stepped closer. Close enough that she caught his scent again, clean and sharp with an undercurrent of something darker. "Do you cook?" The question caught her off guard. Yes, why?" "I want you to cook for me. At your place, tomorrow night." Emily's brain short-circuited. "You want me to what?" "Consider it restitution. You owe me dinner after dumping mine in my lap." His voice was calm, matter-of-fact. But there was something predatory in the way he watched her reaction. "You could eat anywhere in the city." "Why would you want—" "Because I don't want to eat anywhere in the city." Nathan's voice dropped lower, more intimate. "I want to know who you are when you're not wearing that uniform. When you're not taking orders from anyone." The words hit her like a physical blow. Emily stared at him, searching for the catch, the cruel punchline that had to be coming. Men like Nathan Hale didn't ask waitresses to cook for them. They didn't look at girls like her with that intensity, like they were trying to see straight through to her soul. "This is insane," she whispered. "Maybe." He tilted his head, studying her. "Are you afraid of me, Emily?" The question hung between them like a challenge. Emily's pulse quickened. She should say yes, should run. There was something dangerous about Nathan Hale, something that set off every warning bell in her head. But the danger didn't repel her. It called to her. "No," she heard herself say. "I'm not afraid of you." His smile was sharp as a blade. "Good, because I have a feeling you're more dangerous than you look." The word sent a chill down her spine. How could he possibly know? Emily forced her expression to remain neutral, but inside, her carefully constructed walls began to crack. 7 o'clock, Nathan continued, pulling out his phone. "What's your address?" Emily hesitated. Giving him her address felt like crossing a line she couldn't uncross. But something in his eyes held her captive, something that recognized the shadows she carried. She rattled off the Brooklyn address, watching him type it in with steady fingers. When he looked up, his gaze was intense enough to burn. "One more thing, Emily." He stepped close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "Don't cook anything ordinary. I want to taste who you really are." He turned and walked away, leaving Emily gripping the bar for support. She watched him disappear through the restaurant's front door, her heart racing like she'd just agreed to jump off a cliff, which she realized with growing dread she probably had. Marco appeared at her elbow, eyes wide with disbelief. "Did Nathan Hale just ask you out?" Emily's laugh came out hollow. "I don't think ask is the right word." As she grabbed her coat and headed for the exit, one thought echoed in her mind like a death knell. Nathan Hale thought he wanted to know who she really was. He had no idea how dangerous that knowledge could be. Emily's hands trembled as she chopped garlic, the knife blade catching the warm light from her kitchen window. The scent of rosemary and thyme filled her tiny Brooklyn apartment, but it couldn't calm the storm in her chest. In 20 minutes, Nathan Hale would knock on her door, and she had no idea what would happen next. She'd spent the afternoon researching him online, falling deeper into dread with each article she read. Hale Ventures, real estate empire, ruthless businessman who destroyed competitors without blinking, the kind of man who collected information like weapons and used both with surgical precision. The knock came at exactly 7 o'clock. Emily wiped her hands on her apron, took a breath that did nothing to steady her nerves, and opened the door. Nathan stood in her hallway wearing dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that made him look less like a CEO and more like a predator in casual clothing. He held a bottle of wine that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "You look terrified," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "I'm not terrified." Emily closed the door, hyper-aware of how small her apartment suddenly felt. "I'm just wondering why Manhattan's most dangerous man is standing in my kitchen." "Dangerous?" Nathan's eyebrow arched. "Is that what they call me?" "Among other things." He smiled, and it transformed his face. Made him look almost human. "What are you making?" "Arroz con pollo. My grandmother's recipe." Emily returned to the stove, grateful for something to do with her hands. "It's not fancy, but it's real." That's what I wanted. Nathan moved to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. He watched her work in silence, and Emily found herself relaxing despite the circumstances. There was something oddly comfortable about cooking while he observed, like they'd done this 100 times before. "Why did you really come here?" Emily asked, stirring the rice. "And don't say it's about dinner." "You interest me. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have." Nathan's voice was quiet, honest. "I've spent 15 years building an empire. I know how to read people, how to predict their moves, how to use their weaknesses against them. But you—" He paused. "I can't read you at all, and I find that terrifying." Emily's hand stilled on the spoon. She turned to face him, and the vulnerability in his eyes made her chest ache. "You think I'm hiding something. I know you are." Nathan reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered against her cheek. "The question is what and whether I care." The air between them crackled with tension. Emily should step back, should maintain distance, but she was tired of running, tired of being afraid. tired of pretending she didn't feel this pull toward him. "What if what I'm hiding could destroy you?" she whispered. "Then I'd finally feel something other than empty." The words broke her. Emily kissed him before she could think, before she could stop herself, before logic could intervene. Nathan responded instantly, his hand sliding into her hair, pulling her closer. He tasted like danger and promise, like everything she'd been running from, and everything she desperately wanted. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Emily's world had shifted on its axis. "The food's burning," Nathan murmured against her lips. "I don't care." But she turned off the stove anyway, and they ate dinner sitting on her worn couch, knees touching, sharing stories that were mostly true and lies that felt like honesty. Emily told him about her grandmother, about learning to cook in a kitchen that smelled like cilantro and love. Nathan told her about building his empire from nothing, about the loneliness that came with power. What they didn't tell each other could fill volumes. It was past midnight when Nathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression shifted. "Went cold and distant. I have to go." "Now?" Emily tried to keep the disappointment from her voice. "It's late. Something's come up." Nathan stood, already pulling away from her. "Thank you for dinner." "Nathan, wait." He kissed her once more, hard and desperate, like he was memorizing the taste of her. Then he was gone, leaving Emily alone in her apartment with the ghost of his touch on her skin. She locked the door and leaned against it, heart racing. Then she walked to her bedroom, moved aside the loose floorboard, and pulled out the burner phone she kept hidden there. The screen showed 3 missed calls from a number she recognized. Her hands shook as she dialed. "You're late," a man's voice answered, cold, familiar. "I was busy." "I don't pay you to be busy. I pay you to get close to Nathan Hale and report back everything you learn." A pause. "Are you having second thoughts, Emily? Because we both know what happens if you try to back out now." Emily closed her eyes, nausea rolling through her stomach. No second thoughts." "Good. Because your brother's life depends on you following through." The voice turned sharp. "How close are you to finding what we need?" "Close," Emily lied, thinking of Nathan's kiss, the vulnerability in his eyes. "Give me more time. You have 1 week. Then we move with or without your help. And if you've compromised this operation by developing feelings for the target—" "I haven't," Emily said quickly. Too quickly. The silence on the other end was damning. "For your sake, I hope that's true." The line went dead. Emily sat on her bed, the phone burning in her hand like a brand. She'd been working undercover for 6 months, getting close to Nathan Hale on behalf of people who wanted to destroy him. People who held her brother's life as collateral. She was supposed to find evidence of the illegal deals Nathan had buried deep in his empire. Supposed to earn his trust, get access to his files, then disappear before he ever knew she'd betrayed him. But tonight, when he'd kissed her, when he'd looked at her like she was the only real thing in his carefully constructed world, everything had changed. Emily had spent years learning how to lie, how to be whoever people needed her to be, but Nathan made her want to be herself, made her want to tell the truth for once. Consequences be damned. The problem was simple and devastating. She was falling for the man she'd been sent to destroy, and in 7 days, she'd have to choose between saving her brother's life and breaking Nathan's heart. Emily curled onto her side, still tasting Nathan on her lips, and realized with sickening clarity that she'd already made her choice the moment she let him kiss her. She just didn't know if she was strong enough to follow through. 3 days later, Emily stood in Nathan's penthouse office, watching the city lights blur through floor-to-ceiling windows. Rain hammered against the glass like bullets, matching the chaos in her chest. Nathan had called her an hour ago, his voice tight with something she couldn't name. When she'd arrived, his assistant had escorted her up without a word. Eyes filled with pity Emily didn't understand. The door opened behind her. "Thank you for coming." Nathan's voice was different, hollow. "I wasn't sure you would." Emily turned, and her breath caught. He looked wrecked. Hair disheveled, tie loosened, shadows under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. "What's wrong? I need to ask you something." Nathan moved to his desk, pulled out a folder, and held it up. "And I need you to tell me the truth." Emily's blood turned to ice. "Nathan, who is Marcus Torres?" The name hit her like a physical blow. Emily's knees nearly gave out. "How do you—" "I've had people looking into you since the night we met." Nathan's laugh was bitter. "That's what I do, Emily. I investigate everyone who gets close to me. It's how I've survived this long." He opened the folder, pulled out a photograph. "Your brother disappeared 6 months ago. No trace, no body, no ransom demands." His eyes met hers, and the betrayal there made her want to die. Except there were ransom demands, weren't there? Just not the kind that involve money. "Please," Emily whispered. "Let me explain." "Explain what?" "That you were sent to spy on me? That everything between us has been a lie?" Nathan's voice cracked. "I trusted you. I let you in, and the whole time you were working for them. It's not like that. Then what is it like?" Nathan slammed the folder onto his desk. "Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you're not working for the Castellano family. Tell me you weren't sent here to find dirt on my business dealings so they could destroy me." Emily couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The truth sat between them like broken glass. "That's what I thought." Nathan turned away from her, staring out at the rain. "Get out. Nathan, please. They have Marcus. They'll kill him if I don't care." The words exploded out of him. Nathan spun back, and Emily saw something she'd never seen before in his eyes. Pain. Real, devastating pain. "You made your choice when you lied to me. When you let me fall for you while planning to stab me in the back." "I never planned to go through with it," Emily said desperately. "That first night when you kissed me, everything changed. I was going to find a way out. Was going to protect both you and Marcus. I just needed more time." "Time?" Nathan laughed, and the sound was jagged. "You're out of time, Emily. The Castellanos are moving tomorrow night. They're going to hit my development deal in Brooklyn, burn it to the ground. And you," his voice broke, "you gave them everything they needed to do it." "No." Emily shook her head violently. "I haven't given them anything. I've been stalling. I swear, your phone records say otherwise." Nathan pulled out another document. 3 calls in the last week to a number registered to Vincent Castellanos' lieutenant. "What did you tell them, Emily? What did you sell me out for?" "Nothing." Tears streamed down Emily's face. "I told them I needed more time. I've been trying to figure out how to save both of you without anyone getting hurt. People always get hurt." Nathan's voice went dead. "That's the world we live in. You just have to decide who bleeds." He walked to his door, opened it. "I'll give you one chance. Tell me where they're keeping your brother, and I'll handle the Castellanos. You walk away clean, and Marcus will be returned to you safely." Nathan's eyes were empty. "But you and I are done. I never want to see you again." Emily's heart shattered. She'd known this moment was coming, had prepared herself for it. But nothing could have prepared her for the look on Nathan's face. Like she'd taken something precious and ground it into dust. "What if I can't tell you where Marcus is?" Her voice trembled. "What if I don't know? Then your brother dies tomorrow when the Castellanos realize you're useless." Nathan's words were brutal, efficient. "And I lose everything I've built. And you get to live with the knowledge that you destroyed us both." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Is that what you want, Emily? Because I'm done playing games. There's another way." Emily's mind raced. "Let me talk to them. Let me convince them to call it off. They won't listen to you. They will if I trade myself for Marcus." The words came out before she could stop them. "They need someone inside your organization. I'll offer to stay, to keep feeding them information, in exchange for releasing my brother." Nathan stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "That's suicide. It's the only option." Emily moved closer, desperate for him to understand. "Nathan, I know I've destroyed any chance of you trusting me again. I know I don't deserve your help. But please," her voice cracked, "please don't let my brother die because of my mistakes." For a long moment, Nathan said nothing. Just watched her with those storm-gray eyes that had once looked at her like she was precious. Then he pulled out his phone, made a call, spoke in rapid-fire Italian. When he hung up, his expression was unreadable. "I've arranged a meeting, tomorrow at noon, the old warehouse on Pier 19. Nathan's voice was flat. You'll offer yourself in exchange for Marcus. My people will be watching. If anything goes wrong, it won't. If anything goes wrong, he continued as if she hadn't spoken, they'll pull you out. Alive if possible. The words hung between them. Alive if possible. Not a guarantee. Just a slim chance. Why are you helping me? Emily whispered. After everything I've done? Nathan's jaw clenched. Because despite knowing better, despite every instinct screaming at me to let you burn, I can't. He stopped. Turned away. Just don't make me regret this more than I already do. Emily wanted to touch him. Wanted to tell him she loved him. That everything real between them had been real. That she'd rather die than see him hurt. But she'd lost that right the moment she'd lied to him. So she just nodded, memorized the way he looked standing there in his office with the city bleeding light behind him, and walked out the door. She didn't look back. Couldn't bear to see if he was watching her leave. That night, Emily sat in her apartment preparing for tomorrow, writing a letter to Marcus she hoped he'd never have to read, trying to figure out how to save everyone when the only currency she had left was her own life. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, change of plans. Meeting moved to tonight, 11 p.m. Come alone or your brother dies. Emily's hands shook as she texted Nathan the update. His response was immediate. Don't go. It's a trap, I know, she typed back. But it's the only trap I've got. She grabbed her coat, checked the small knife she kept hidden in her boot, and headed for the door. If tonight was the night everything fell apart, at least she'd fall knowing she'd tried to protect the two people who mattered most, even if one of them would never forgive her, and the other would never know how much she loved him. The warehouse stank of rust and river water. Emily's footsteps echoed against concrete as she moved deeper into the darkness, every nerve screaming at her to run. Emily Torres. Vincent Castellano's voice cut through the shadows. Right on time. Lights blazed to life, blinding her. When her vision cleared, Emily saw him standing 20 feet away. Silver-haired, expensive suit, smile like a shark. And beside him, tied to a chair with blood on his face, was Marcus. Marcus! Emily lunged forward, but two men grabbed her arms, holding her back. He's alive, Vincent said pleasantly. For now, whether he stays that way depends entirely on you. Let him go. Emily's voice shook. I'll give you whatever you want. Just let him go. What I want, Vincent circled her slowly, is for you to tell me why Nathan Hale knows about tonight. Emily's blood froze. What? Don't play stupid. It doesn't suit you. Vincent pulled out his phone, showed her a text message. From Nathan. Sent an hour ago. Coordinates of the warehouse. Details of Vincent's operation. Everything. He warned me you were coming. Told me to expect an ambush. Vincent's smile widened. Told me you'd try to trade yourself for your brother, and that I should take the deal because you're worthless to him now. The words hit Emily like bullets, each one tearing through her chest, shredding everything she thought she knew. No, she whispered. He wouldn't he? Vincent moved closer. Nathan Hale doesn't forgive betrayal, Miss Torres. He destroys it. And congratulations, you've been destroyed. Emily's mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Nathan had seemed hurt, seemed devastated by her lies. But what if that was the act? What if he'd been playing her the whole time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back? Where is he? Emily's voice came out hollow. Who knows? Probably watching from somewhere safe while I clean up his mess. Vincent nodded to his men. Take her to the car. Kill the brother. We don't need him anymore. Wait, Emily screamed as they dragged her backward. Please, you got what you wanted. Just let Marcus go. The gunshot cracked through the warehouse like thunder. But it wasn't Marcus who fell. Vincent Castellano's body hit the concrete, a perfect bullet hole between his eyes. His men spun, reaching for weapons, as more shots rang out. They dropped one by one, efficient and brutal. Then Nathan stepped out of the shadows, gun still raised, eyes cold as winter. Emily, get down! She didn't think, just dropped as bullets screamed overhead. Nathan moved like violence made flesh, taking out the remaining men with surgical precision. When the last body fell, silence crashed over the warehouse like a wave. Emily's ears rang. Her hands shook. Everything felt surreal, like a nightmare she couldn't wake from. Nathan crossed to Marcus, cut his bonds with a knife. Her brother collapsed forward, coughing, and Nathan caught him. "You're safe," Nathan said quietly. "I've got you." Then his eyes found Emily's, and the emptiness there made her want to scream. "I had to make them believe I'd betrayed you," Nathan said, his voice carefully neutral. "It was the only way to get them all in one place. The only way to end this. You let me think—" Emily couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't articulate the agony of believing he'd sold her out. "I know." Nathan's jaw clenched. "I'm sorry," Marcus groaned, trying to stand. Nathan supported him, helped him toward the warehouse entrance where headlights suddenly blazed to life. A car Emily recognized. Nathan's security team. "Get him to the hospital," Nathan ordered. "Private room. No records. Wait." Emily scrambled to her feet, ran to her brother. Marcus looked at her with eyes full of pain and confusion and relief. "Emmy," he whispered. "What's happening? You're safe now." Emily hugged him carefully, mindful of his injuries. "You're going to be okay." They loaded Marcus into the car. As it drove away, Emily stood in the warehouse with Nathan, surrounded by bodies and the metallic scent of blood. "What happens now?" she asked. Nathan holstered his gun, finally looked at her directly. "Now you disappear. I've arranged new identities for you and Marcus. Money. A house in Portland. You'll be untraceable. And you? I'll handle the cleanup. Make sure no one comes looking for you." His voice was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing a business transaction. "By tomorrow morning, Emily Torres won't exist anymore." The words gutted her. "Nathan, don't," he held up a hand. "Please don't." "You saved us," Emily said, tears streaming down her face. "You risked everything to save us, and I destroyed your trust. I lied to you. You were trying to save your brother." Nathan's voice cracked just barely. "I understand that. I even respect it." He moved closer, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the pain he was working so hard to hide. "But understanding doesn't mean I can forget. Doesn't mean we can go back. I love you." The words burst out of Emily like a confession. "I know I have no right to say it. Know you'll never believe me, but it's true. Everything I felt, everything between us, that was real." Nathan kissed her, hard and desperate and heartbroken, like he was trying to memorize the taste of her. Like he was saying goodbye in the only language that mattered. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. "I know it was real," he whispered. "That's what makes this impossible." He stepped away, putting distance between them that felt like miles. "The car will take you to Marcus. Tickets to Portland leave at 6 a.m. Don't miss it, Emily. Don't come back." Nathan's voice turned to steel. "If I see you again, I won't be able to let you go a second time. And we both know how that story ends." Emily wanted to fight, wanted to scream that they could figure this out, that love was supposed to be enough. But she'd learned the hard way that love was never enough against the weight of broken trust. "Goodbye, Nathan. Goodbye, Emily." She walked toward the warehouse exit, each step feeling like dying. At the door, she looked back one last time. Nathan stood in the center of the carnage he'd created to save her, looking more alone than any person should ever be. And Emily realized the cruelest truth of all. She'd finally found someone who could see past her masks, who'd made her want to be real, who'd loved her despite every reason not to. And losing him hurt worse than any betrayal ever could. The car was waiting outside. Emily climbed in, let it carry her away from the only man she'd ever loved. She didn't know that back in the warehouse, Nathan collapsed against the wall, gun clattering from his hands. Didn't know he was breaking apart, piece by piece, in the darkness. Didn't know that tomorrow, he'd stand at his office window and watch the sun rise over a city that felt emptier without her in it. All Emily knew was that she'd traded everything for her brother's life. And somehow she'd ended up losing herself in the process. 6 months later, Emily stood in her Portland kitchen, staring at the rain through the window. Marcus was upstairs, finally healthy, finally safe. They'd built a quiet life here. Simple, calm. Everything she'd never had before. She should have been happy. Instead, she felt hollow. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Emily's heart stopped as she read the message. "The Castellano family has a new leader. She's coming for you. Run, no signature." But Emily knew that typing pattern. that clipped efficiency. Nathan, still watching over her from 1,000 miles away. Still protecting her even after everything. Emily deleted the message, grabbed her keys, and drove to Marcus's physical therapy appointment. Tried to focus on mundane things, grocery lists, bills, the weather. But that night, after Marcus went to bed, Emily pulled out the burner phone she'd kept hidden. The one she'd sworn she'd never use. She typed a message to the number she'd memorized but never saved. How long until she finds us? The response came in seconds, 2 days. Maybe 3. I've slowed them down, but I can't stop this. Emily's hands shook. What do I do? Run, again! I'll send new identities. And then what? Run forever? A long pause. Then, yes. Emily stared at the word, feeling something inside her shift. Break. Reform into something harder. She'd spent 6 months running from who she was, pretending to be someone normal, someone safe. But the truth was simpler and more brutal. She was her grandmother's daughter. She'd learned to fight in kitchens that smelled like cilantro and survival, had learned to lie before she learned to read, had spent her whole life becoming whatever she needed to be to protect the people she loved. Maybe it was time to stop running. There's another option, Emily typed. Don't. You don't even know what I'm going to say. I know you well enough to know it's going to be reckless and dangerous, and will probably get you killed. Despite everything. Emily smiled. I'm coming back to New York. Her phone rang immediately. Emily answered before she could second-guess herself. No? Nathan's voice was raw. Absolutely not. They'll never stop hunting me, Nathan. You know that. Emily kept her voice steady. Running just delays the inevitable. I need to end this. You need to stay alive. I need to live. There's a difference. Emily closed her eyes. I'm tired of being afraid. Tired of hiding. I want to face this head on. Then let me handle it, Nathan said desperately. I can take care of the new Castellano leader. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Emily's voice turned gentle. Because this isn't just about me anymore. It's about Marcus. About you. About everyone the Castellanos will hurt if someone doesn't stop them. She paused. I'm not the girl you met 6 months ago, Nathan. I'm not helpless. I never was. Silence. Then quietly. I know. Will you help me? Emily, please. She hated how vulnerable the word sounded. I can't do this without you. Another long silence. Then Nathan's voice, resigned and terrified. When? I'll be there in 3 days. This is insane. I know. Emily's heart hammered. But it's the only way forward. For both of us. She hung up before he could argue more. Before she could lose her nerve. Marcus found her 2 hours later, still sitting in the dark. You're leaving, aren't they? Her brother's voice was soft. Knowing. Emily nodded, unable to speak. To protect me. To protect all of us. Emily turned to face him. They'll never stop coming, Marcus. Not unless I make them. And if you don't come back? The question hung between them like a blade. Then you'll know I died, trying to give you a real life. A safe one. Emily hugged her brother tight. That's worth everything to me. Not to me, Marcus whispered. You're all I have left. You have yourself now. That's more than enough. 3 days later, Emily walked into Nathan's penthouse, and the world narrowed to just him. He looked different. Older. There were new lines around his eyes, new shadows in his expression. But when he saw her, something sparked to life behind those storm-gray eyes, something that made her chest ache. You came, he said simply. Did you think I wouldn't? I hoped you wouldn't. Nathan moved closer. Hoping was pointless, apparently. They stared at each other across the space that felt impossible to cross. 6 months of silence. 6 months of trying to forget. 6 months of failing miserably. The new Castellano leader is Vincent's daughter, Nathan said finally, breaking the spell. Her name is Sophia. She's worse than her father, smarter, more ruthless. How do we stop her? We don't. Nathan pulled out a file, handed it to Emily. You do. Emily opened it, scanned the documents inside. Bank records, shell companies, evidence of money laundering, drug trafficking, murder for hire. This is everything we need to destroy her, Emily breathed. Almost everything. Nathan's voice was careful. "We still need proof she's actively running the operations. That requires someone on the inside." Emily's stomach dropped. "You want me to go undercover again?" "I want you to stay hidden in Portland and let me handle this." Nathan's jaw clenched. "But since that's apparently not an option, yes. Get close to Sophia. Earn her trust. Get the evidence we need to bury her so deep she'll never surface. And if she figures out who I am, then we're both dead." Nathan said it matter-of-factly. "So don't let her figure it out." Emily should have been terrified. Should have run. But all she felt was certainty, cold and sharp. "When do we start?" Nathan's expression shifted. "Emily, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do." She stepped closer. "You saved my life. My brother's life. You gave us everything and asked for nothing in return." Her voice dropped. "Let me do this. Let me be the person you believed I could be." "I always believed in you," Nathan whispered. That was never the problem. The words hung between them, heavy with everything they hadn't said. Everything they couldn't say. Emily reached out, touched his face. Nathan closed his eyes like her touch hurt. "When this is over," Emily said softly, "when Sophia Castellano is buried and Marcus is safe and we've paid every debt we owe, don't." Nathan's hand covered hers. "Don't make promises we can't keep." "I'm not promising anything." Emily's thumb traced his cheekbone. "I'm just telling you what I want. A chance to try again. To do this right. To see if two broken people can build something whole." Nathan opened his eyes, and the longing there made her breath catch. "If we survive this," he said finally. "If we actually pull this off and live through it, then yes. We try." He pulled her close, pressed his forehead against hers. "But Emily, if anything happens to you, if Sophia hurts you, I won't just bury her. I'll burn down everything she's ever touched." "That's very dramatic." "I'm a dramatic person." Nathan's lips quirked. "You knew that when you fell for me." Emily laughed, and it felt like breaking the surface after drowning. "I did, didn't I?" They kissed then. Slow and aching and full of promise, full of all the words they couldn't say, and all the chances they might never get. When they pulled apart, the world had shifted again. Snapped into focus. "Let's end this," Emily said. Nathan nodded. Together. 2 weeks later, Emily stood in Sophia Castellano's office, playing the role of a desperate woman with nothing to lose. It wasn't hard. She barely had to act. She'd spent 14 days earning Sophia's trust, proving herself useful, feeding the woman carefully curated information that Nathan provided, building a house of cards that was about to collapse. "I have something for you," Emily said, pulling out a flash drive. "Evidence of Nathan Hale's offshore accounts. Everything you need to destroy him." Sophia's eyes lit up. "How did you get this?" "Because I used to work for him. Used to know him." Emily let bitterness bleed into her voice. "Before he threw me away like garbage. It wasn't entirely a lie. That made it easier to sell." Sophia took the flash drive, plugged it into her computer. As she scrolled through the fake documents Nathan had created, Emily's hand slipped into her jacket pocket, pressed the button on the recording device hidden there. "This is perfect," Sophia murmured. "With this I can bring down his entire empire, freeze his assets, ruin him completely." "That's not all I can offer," Emily said carefully. "I know where his backup files are kept. The ones with his real secrets. The ones he'd kill to protect." Sophia looked up sharply. "Where?" "His penthouse. Top floor. There's a safe behind the Rothko painting. Combination is—" Emily rattled off numbers. "But you'll need to move fast. He changes the combination every 2 weeks. How do you know all this?" Emily met Sophia's eyes, let her see the pain there. The rage, because I loved him, and he destroyed me anyway. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Now I want to watch him burn," Sophia smiled. "It was a terrible thing to see. You and I are going to get along beautifully." 3 days later, the FBI raided Sophia Castellano's operations, based on the recordings Emily had provided. They found everything. The money, the evidence, the connections that linked Sophia to a dozen different crimes. When the news broke, Emily stood in Nathan's penthouse, watching the reports flood in. "It's over," Nathan said from behind her. "You did it." Emily turned to face him, and for the first time in months, She felt like she could breathe. We did it. Nathan crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. They stood there in the middle of his apartment, holding each other like lifelines. "What happens now?" Emily whispered. "Now we try." Nathan's voice was rough with emotion. "We try to build something real. Something honest. No more lies. No more secrets." "I'm still going to be a mess," Emily warned. "Still going to have nightmares. Still going to wake up afraid sometimes. Then I'll be there when you wake up." Nathan tilted her chin up, his eyes fierce. "I'll be there for all of it, Emily. The good, the bad, the terrifying. All of it." Emily kissed him, and it felt like coming home. Felt like choosing herself for the first time in her life. Felt like the beginning of something impossible and perfect, and completely theirs. 6 months later, Emily stood in the kitchen of Nathan's penthouse, making arroz con pollo. Marcus sat at the counter, healthy and whole, laughing at something Nathan said. The apartment smelled like rosemary and garlic and family. Nathan came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "You okay?" he murmured against her neck. Emily leaned back into him, watching Marcus steal pieces of chicken from the pan. "Yeah," she said softly. "I really am." She'd spent her whole life running from herself, from her past, from the truth of who she was. But standing here, surrounded by the people she loved, Emily finally understood. She wasn't broken. She was strong. She was whole. She was enough, and she was exactly where she belonged. The end.